Hey guys, what's up? Uh, Welcome to the first video in a while, and this is actually a tutorial video on how to use the Undertale Simple Battle Creator like an expert. Now, I've seen a lot of people do stuff like this right here. This guy made a video that's like how to make attacks, that stuff. Other people have also made videos like this. For example, somebody made this display for Tires Battle, and a lot of these people, there's like, yeah, but most of them, I don't even know how to make attacks. Now, I know this is 2 years ago, and I'm kind of late on the Undertale Simple Battle Creator train, but I think I am pretty experienced with this. I've made quite a few battles, and I'm going to show you how to make stuff way better than anything else that you've probably ever seen online. And this might be a multi-part series. I have no idea. I can make it a multi-part series if we get 10 likes. Kind of a pathetic goal, but whatever. Also, I'm going to be using this version, which is a actual modified version of the original, since it adds a lot of new stuff that I think is very helpful for making battles, and I just find better in general. So, if you want the link to that project, then I will put it in the description, and it's also right there. Really, you just have to go to any Scratch project, remove these numbers, and then type in the number of the project you want. So this is the project ID. So if this was a different project, all I would have to do is just delete this and then type in the ID, which for this is actually, wait, that's my project, which is 752668484. But if you want to just go to the project, you can head over to the link in the description. Also, another thing, apologies for my mic being pretty bad. I don't know how I'm supposed to fix the issue, but sometimes it's just gonna sound low quality, or my voice is just gonna weirdly fade in because of something, or wind might catch in it, so excuse me for that. Now, the first thing you want to do when making a battle is, of course, to remix it, because, I mean, it's going to be your own project and your own battle, so it's most definitely the best thing to start off with remixing it. After that, you can name it whatever it is. I'm just gonna name this Test Boss Battle. And now most of the stuff is going to be taking place inside the project, and it's gonna be a bit complex, might be a bit overwhelming at first, but it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Now, the first thing that you do want to do before you actually do anything is start up the project. I have the volume kind of low so I can actually hear myself. But now, whenever you enter the project, since this is my kind of modified version, that's definitely 10 times better than the original. There's a change log down here, Battle of the Week, keys totally not complete. So, all of this stuff mostly is kind of outdated. Like the Battle of the Week thingy, they don't actually put any battles or anything like that anymore because, of course, this project has stopped receiving updates. The original project, the creator is left scratch. Same for the other person who remixed that project, and then this guy remixed that project again and created a sort of final modified version. And even this version no longer receives updates, so it's just kind of a train of somebody remixing it, adding a bit of stuff, and then just completely leaving. But you know what? That's fine because this stuff is actually pretty advanced, and if you know how to, you can add your own stuff. That's a lot better. But we'll get to that in a later part. Now there are two modes here. This explains it kind of right here, but there's a Flowey mode, which is sort of a tutorial, and an advanced mode, which just kind of lets you make your own stuff, which I know you may be tempted to use Flowey mode because it'll teach you everything, but I'm going to be using advanced mode, and I'll just teach you myself, and if you prefer that, then you can do that, because, I mean, that's the reason you watched this video in the first place. Now, when you start, you will have your player stats and you will have your monster stats. The player stats will start off at 20, 10 attack, 10 defense. I don't know why I just stopped there. My brain like stopped working for a second. And then over here, the monster stats, they just start off at 100 HP, 14 attack, 0 defense. Man, I need to make videos more often. I don't have like that energy of a YouTuber. So over here, this shows how much damage you'll take and how much damage you'll deal to the monster. And the stats, we're gonna leave them as they are for now, but just telling you, the attack and defense of you will reflect the attack and defense of the monster. So right now it says you'll do 23 damage, or around that number. So you might do 30 damage. You'll do around 23 damage. However, if I increase their defense to 5, you will now only do 13 damage. So that's kind of how defense works. And you only take 4 damage here. This number does not fluctuate. It usually stays stationary unless you increase the monster's attack during battle. However, if I increase this monster's attack to 18, you will deal 8 damage, which will make you die much faster. So, we're gonna keep that the same for now, but you can edit any of this stuff, and your HP is actually calculated with your level. So if I set myself to have 56 HP, it's going to put me at 10 level, as you can see right here. And if I give myself 28 HP, it will put me at level 3. So, we're going to change that to 20. Next page are the acts. Now, acts depend on the battle you're doing. Usually, if you're making a genocide battle, acts don't matter too much. I mean, of course, any battle that you make can have multiple things, and these acts are pretty good. Now, you can set specifically with these cogwheels how many times you can use an action in order to actually spare the monster or make the monster relatively spare. So, since oh my god, since you have this set to 9 right here, you will need to use this act 9 times in order to make the monster be spareable. Now, I'm not gonna mess with this for now, but we can mess with this later, and I'll tell you why editing it from this menu is kind of risky, because sometimes the editor, for some reason, does this thing where it just deletes the action that you added, so I'll show you a better way to have this later. Next are your items and text. Encounter text is just what appears when you start the battle, so I'm gonna put W blocks away, and right here it will preview your text. So now if I load the battle, the dummy blocks away. And that's pretty useful. You can put anything you want here. The wind is howling. I put commas instead of periods. Stage lights are blaring. And field sends Now, I know I'm just stealing genocide dialogue because I'm not original at all. I couldn't even write it right. But, you may be wondering, what is this at symbol? Why did I put an at and then 2 spaces? The reason for that is because in Undertale, what happens is there is a comma, then a space, then it puts its text. And on the second line, instead of a comma, there's just a space. So there's 2 spaces. And this at symbol right here will draw a new line. So, since it's going to draw a new line, underneath the first one, it's then going to do 2 spaces, and then it's going to write that bottom text. These 2 spaces are important because this is how other type writes and stuff. So, if you want to make it look more professional, then you can do it like this. But really, it's up to your creativity how you want to do this, because to be honest, you could use this for something that isn't even an Undertale battle. You could do something completely different. You just like Undertale's battle system, so you want to use it for battles or whatever. So, that is how that works. Then, items over here, it's a bit complex. There is, what you have to do is you have to press this up arrow at the very beginning, and then write the item that you actually want. Now, there's a specific set of items from the game in a database in this project, so you have to kind of write them specifically how it is in the database. And this up arrow right here, which I'm guessing is going to be used in order to make this first letter uppercase. I actually don't know why you have to put this arrow here, but either way, you want to always start off these items with a lowercase letter, so that way it doesn't break. So I'm gonna put snow piece. You write it just like that. Then, if it's in the database, which it is, at least in this modified version, now, include the snow piece. HP maxed out. Pretty cool. Uh, I'll show you the full list of items later, but for now let's move on, since we're just kind of overviewing everything in here. Next, we have the dialogue that the monster will say. So, right here, there's random text dialogues that you can choose. Now, personally, most of my battles, I actually don't use these, and I'll explain why in a second. But for now, let's go ahead and just test these out. So, I'm gonna write the most generic dialogue of all time. Die! You will not win. I have souls. This is pretty much the dialogue in every single one of these stupid Undertale games that I see. Like, I'm sorry, but most of these fan games that people are making have the craziest text of all time. Like, I will kill you and die, Ben and girl. But, yeah. Anyway, my reason for not using these is because I like doing progressive battles, where they will always say the same text on the same turn as the battle progressively, gets harder and harder. Like each attack is set, just like the Sans battle, except you don't actually have to fight them in order for the battle to continue, or really any other character that's up there that's not behind me and dying, or Aspen, doesn't talk at all, where the enemy will say the same line of dialogue instead of just putting random lines of dialogue throughout the battle, and have their own set attacks on those turns. Now, of course, I'm pretty sure that all of the normal enemies that aren't the actual boss monsters do have random dialogue, so if you're just making a normal enemy, this would be the most but we're gonna move on from there. Next, we have probably the most important part of this engine, and that's choosing the monster sprite and the theme of your battle. And actually, not gonna lie, I usually actually just don't use these sprites, and I import my own, so that awaits my own, like, thing that I want, because I'm not gonna lie, the creator who put these sprites in, they're kind of low quality. Like, look at this Mettaton Neo sprite. It's just kind of grainy. So I usually put my own stuff, but for now we're gonna stick it simple, and we're gonna go ahead and put in Papyrus, because he's the coolest character in the game. And you just have to use left and right in order to change this. And then up and down is to change the song, which will always preview this. So, for, of course, Papyrus, we're going to use the theme. We're going to use bonus proposal. Now, this actual modification version has a lot of different songs. Like, a lot. Even from, like, alternate universes. But there's bonus proposal right there, so let's move on. Now, we have custom player name. I actually sometimes use this, and I just change it to Clara for, lore purposes, especially whenever I'm making my genocide battles. But you can just leave this empty, and if you do, it will just automatically take the first 6 letters of your username and import them in there. Next, for invincibility frames, to change these, and this is actually used in the Sans fight, where you have no invincibility frames whatsoever, but we're just gonna leave that as it is. And then monster random text. If you're planning on making a progressive battle, usually the first thing you want to do is just turn this off so that way it won't say random text while they're also saying progressive text. Then it ends up making it to where they'll say something, and then they'll say a random line of dialogue, and then they'll proceed to use their progressive dialogue in a row, and it doesn't really make sense, because usually that's pretty disconnected, so usually you want to turn this off, but because this is just a test battle, we'll leave that on. And then we have the game over screen text, which you can change this so whenever you die, it will have different text. So, these are. We can't preview that right now just because right now we don't actually have any attacks. I'll show you how to add those once we're done with this stuff. Next, the corrupt poison effect. Now, the corrupt poison effect is what Sans uses, where you just have this, like, karma effect. So, it just slowly drains your HP. And over here we have the wind text whenever you kill the monster, but the wind text will spare. Whenever I do battles, instead of just E1, I usually do this. So, I'll do the usual E1 because that's what most battles do in Undertale. Then I'll put this at symbol into two spaces like I usually do when I draw another line. And then I'll do, like, U1, 150 EXP, and 80 gold. And then sometimes I'll put love increased and that stuff, because that's kind of how the game does it. And then text of try to run. Now this game engine actually has a flee option, but it's pretty useless, and it doesn't even use your turn because in almost every single battle, this flee button doesn't work, and it just sits there, there's nowhere to run or something like that. But you know, if you wanted to, you could put in your own like ability to flee. Which I've never actually done this because, like I said, I do genocide battles, and usually you can't flee a genocide battle. You can't flee Sans. You can't flee Undyne. So, next we have your custom level. Now you can change this to whatever you want. So even if your player only has 20 HP, you can set it to where they have 99 level or something, which that doesn't make any sense at all. But you could use this for a battle where it's kind of like, I don't know, a gaster battle and he's glitching the menus and making you have really high level. Or you just want to do it for visual purposes because maybe you're doing like a true genocide battle where you kill everyone and now you're level 99 because you killed all the monsters in the underground and you have 9,000 HP, which I don't recommend. I don't recommend setting your HP higher than 156 because if you set it any higher than that, it just goes off the screen and it looks really dumb. And I see a lot of battles do that for some reason. Next, Invincible. In the Asriel fight, whenever you die, your soul refuses. So if you turn on Invincible, then it will basically just mean it comes back to life and refuses to die. And then Monster Dodges is for Sans, of course, because if you try to attack the monster, they dodge away. So that's what Monster Dodges does. And then we have the weapons category, which is very useful because this allows you to change the weapon that you want. So I'm going to do the burnt pan, and you're going to have the cowboy hat or something. And then the final page here is the menu style, the text style, and the soul animation. The menu style is how the menu works, so there are multiple styles, and yeah. So according to this, menu style 0 is an old version, menu style 1 uses clones and destroyed and made, which will get cut out later, because you can destroy actual menu options, just like the Asgore fight. And then menu 2 just has an animation whenever you select stuff, which looks like this. I kind of like this, though I usually don't do it just to keep it true to Undertale, but if you're making like a fan game, it's pretty cool. Then, after that, we have the text style. The text style is pretty complicated. I recommend not messing it with right now, but it just kind of changes the way you can write text because there's lots of cool text options to change colors and whatnot. Which we'll get into that in a later episode. And to be honest, even I'm a little bit overwhelmed with all the different colors you can change them to, all the, text, commands. And then finally, soul animation is if you want an animation at the start with the soul blinks. Turn this off, you'll just immediately enter the battle with no soul animation. I usually keep the soul animation on, but you can also turn it off if you just want the battle to immediately start. Alright, that's all of the basic settings. Now we're gonna get into some of the advanced that stuff. Because that was just setting up how the battle actually works. Now we need to make the battle itself. And there's a lot of stuff in here, so get ready. First, blocks. There are lots, and I mean lots, of different attacks you can choose from in this battle engine, which is great. There's like a lot for a bunch of different characters. Some of them will require soul colors, like you need to change the soul color, and in order to do that, you have to head right around here. Change soul color to, and you can use this to change the soul color to whatever you want at the start of an attack. So I want to set the soul color to blue. Also, if we're making a character like Papyrus, you probably want to use this change sound ID tool button. And basically what that will do is just change the voice of whoever's talking. It starts off as a default voice, but we want it to be Papyrus's voice. So we'll come over here, copy this text, then we'll head over to here, change sound ID to that, and now whenever this talks, if we listen to the voice, now he sounds like Papyrus. So let's go ahead and change our soul color to blue on all of these attacks. Since these are randomly chosen and we just want to test out an attack, we will set it on all of these, so no matter which attack it chooses, it's always going to be the same thing. So we'll do Bones 1. And there's a lot of different attacks to explore in here, so you can do a lot of experimenting. And you can also do multiple attacks into one thing. However, just a fair warning for this, sometimes attacks take a really long time to end. So just make sure your attacks don't last longer than like 30 seconds, which is already too long as it is, because then your player is just going to get bored because they're just kind of sitting there waiting for the attack to end. So I'd recommend only using 1 or 2 attacks, or doing some advanced editing in the code and trying to actually change how long the attacks take after they end, which is something that I would totally do to be fair. But usually I just use 1 attack. Now, Bones 1 will do this, and it's kind of like a simplified version of Sand's attack, where you just kind of jump up and down. And now, if we want to, we can get rid of this, and we'll just use all of these Bones attacks. So, we'll set the speed on this one to 6, which some of these attacks do have customizations you can use that will basically change how the attacks actually work. So, change the speed to 6, and you can change how many times the circle pulls, so it's 5. And we're gonna copy the soul color, and we're gonna make sure you are red, because if it doesn't say for blue soul, or yellow soul, green soul, whatever, then you always want to just automatically set it to red, because if you change the soul color to blue, then the next attack will always be blue unless you change it, because your soul does save the. So I just killed Papyrus there because my attack is really high, so we're just gonna give Papyrus a lot of HP so we don't one-shot him. Do pretty high damage. Now, if you get this attack, which I think is broken because it's got rooted for some reason. Oh wait, I know, right? It's because it says maximum 4. I didn't notice that. The maximum is 4. Oh, there we go. So now this attack will basically just summon these bones, which will be different colors. So blue is stay still, orange is blue. And this attack, which I'm going to use bones for, is goes with spinning bones, which is a pretty cool attack. And now that we know that, we can continue the fight. We'll continue to say random dialogue. And now you've got yourself a fairly simple fight. However, why stop here? Because there's so much more that you can do in this battle engine. It's kind of crazy. Also, I take like no damage because my defense is too high, which is funny. There. It's because I have my defensive items is like 11 defense, so 13 defense, so Papyrus can only do like 2 damage. Or wait, no, it'd be 12 defense. Now that we have this Papyrus battle, we can realize that, and then I just went all that. Now, after that, we can continue by turning this into a progressive battle. Whenever I make progressive battles, the first thing I do, usually, is I just drag myself all the way over here, past that, right here. This right here has a turn counter variable as its multi-dimension. And now that we have this, all we have to do is drag all of this and put it right in the attack 1 area. And so, for making progressive battles, it's a bit more complex. However, it definitely adds some liveliness, and whenever I first discovered you could do this, I was ecstatic because this is actually pretty cool. So, you just want to duplicate this one attack 1 here to all of these, so that way, no matter what, it always activates attack 1, and it will sense what turn you're on, making a progressive battle. So, we're going to make it to where the first turn, the Tyrus will say, "Hey, are you human?" And now he will attack with this. Then on the next attack, he'll attack with this and change his weapon to items. And now he's going to say, "I'm gonna capture you." No grammar here at all. Now we restart the fight. We're going to attack the Tyrus. And now he's going to say his random text, and then he's going to say, "Hey, human," and then he's going to continue to use his attacks. Now, this is why you usually want to remove the random dialogue so it doesn't get in the way of your attacks. But we'll do that in a minute. Now you can see on the second turn, I put the souls, and then he's going to say, "I'm going to catch you," and then he's going to use his attack again. It's strange because that's supposed to be an attack. Oh wait, no, he uses 2 attacks. I forgot that attack's like impossible. Anyway, that's how that works. So now what we need to do is, of course, since we've noticed the bug, we're going to turn on monster random text. And then we need to fix our little oopsie here by making it to where, since you're in the blue soul for this first attack, we're going to make it to where you change it to the red soul. So now we have diagnosed our bug. We're going to attack the Tyrus. He's going to attack us with his first attack. And then, now, as you can see, our random dialogue doesn't get in the way. And on this next turn, I'm going to capture you. Pretty cool. He's going to throw this attack again. But then, after that, we're going to turn red. And he'll do this attack. And we'll have to go from that. And that's the basic way it works. Pretty dang cool. Now that we know how to make a basic turn counter battle, let's talk about HP, attack, all of that stuff. Now, depending on the battle you're going for, whether it be genocide or pacifist, it kind of depends on the HP and attack you do. So, usually for genocide battles, I make it to where you do a ton of attack, and the monster has a lot of HP, because it represents how strong you are in genocide, kind of like the Undying the Undying battle. But for a basic pacifist or neutral battle, we can set their HP to, in this scenario, probably around 2,000. And I usually try to reference from other characters just to make sure that the strength of the bosses I'm making makes sense. Because, of course, Tyrus only has 680 HP, and Undying has 1500 HP in her normal form, while Asgore has 3500 HP, while holding back, of course. So, since they're around 2000 HP, this monster is stronger than Undying at her best, and weaker than Asgore holding back. Now, you want to start the battle, and let's check how this works. So, now as you can see, you do, like, no damage to Tyrus. So, of course, since you increased their HP, we're going to increase our attack to around 160. And that, in this respect, will therefore make it a lot easier to defeat Tyrus. And that's how it works. And that's kind of the basic way that you can create a turn-based battle where your opponent takes a lot of HP, not too much HP, no matter what goes on. And most battles last around 15 to 20 turns, but, you know, of course, let your creativity run wild and do whatever you want. The next thing, and probably the last thing we're going to discuss in this episode, is the way items and acts work. said before, you probably don't want to add axe from the menu, and instead go into the put anything that you have in before your turn here, which is usually the stuff I set in order to set up the battle, and any modifications that need to be reset in case they're changed later in the battle. So it will set the sound ID to Papyrus, and now we want to add an act. So I'm gonna do check with text Papyrus. Send attack. Send defense. I said that. What was that accent that I like basically unlocked? Likes to say. Yay. Hey. Hey. Got some grammar there. Because everybody likes grammar, I guess. Now, whenever we start the fight, we're going to check Papyrus. 10 attack. 10 defense. Likes to say. Hey, hey, hey. And boom! We've got pretty good chat text. Now we can add another one, so we can do flirt, and then we're gonna do papyrus. Papyrus disagrees with this, whatever that means. Papyrus disagrees with this. There we go. And you can add up to 4 different act options. So we can, now if you try to add more than 4, it will just not be there at all. It'll just get rid of it. So up to 4, pretty good amount. And yeah, that's a lot of flirt options. Next, for items, as you can see, like I said before, you have the pie and the snow piece. Depending on where this battle takes place in the game or whatever alternate universe you're doing, you can change this to the items you would usually have in the game or something else. And all of the items are stored in a database. Okay, so I think everything is stored. It's a G cursor. So this is right here where they store all of the items of the game. And you can actually use this to add your own custom items. So if you just kind of want to duplicate this and then remove everything else, I could literally add my own item. Go here, change the name of the item to group here. And then I can change the amount of HP it heals. So I want this to heal 55 HP. Just change this both to 55 HP. And then now, if we go to edit, and I like this. If I head over to here, where the items are, I can just add it here. And now, if I head over here, boom, there's an option. I hit the rupee. And of course, you can't eat root beer, so you can actually change the action. And instead of 8, you can change it to like 20. So now it's you drink the root beer. So that's probably it makes more sense. Makes a lot more sense because you can, yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of all the items, and this has a lot of items from Undertale. A lot. Ice cream, hamburger, hot dog, hot cat, monster candy, spider donut, spider cider pie, mystical unicycle, cinnamon roll, snow piece, astronaut food. Tons of them. Legendary hero face chips. So out of all of those, you can change like which ones you want through just putting in a like you can kind of look in there or look in the website. I don't know, look in the description. Just put that up arrow and then put whatever you want. So I want the C team. Put C team there. I go over to here. There's the C team. HP maxed out. Speed boost. And as you can see, my speed does actually increase because that's what the CT does in the game. And I'm pretty sure that's it for the tutorial. That's how to make a basic custom battle with axe, items, and I will be showing you in the next episode. Again, I will make that if this gets 10 likes on how to change backgrounds, put a little more customization into your battle, and also learn how to make it to where you can spare monsters while doing certain action. I'll also be showing you how to make a teleport section and all that fun stuff. See you in the next episode.